Redemption arcs in comics, for the most part, usually don't stick. Go ask Batman's Rogues Gallery. Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Riddler, and Poison Ivy have all been full-on superheroes before, only to go to the status quo of them being villains again. However, Poison Ivy has been redeemed more than once, and seems as if the most recent redemption arc that she's gone through is here to stay. But for the most part, over at DC, the villains, when they become heroes, they go back to being villains. But I think something that makes Mar-Vell a little bit different when it comes down to status quo is that they will alter the status quo in such a drastic manner that will stay. With Mar-Vell having some of the very few deaths actually staying, well, deaths. Gwen Stacy, Mar-Vell, and the original Baron Zemo all stayed 6 feet under. It is a canon event, like Spider-Man 2099 might say. So when it comes down to redemption arcs over at Mar-Vell, they do have a stronger tendency of actually sticking. At least more than they do at DC. A character over at Mar-Vell who is most known as a hero named Songbird actually started off as a villain, named Screaming Mimi. Melissa Gold started off her career as a villain in Mar-Vell 2-in-1 issue 54 from 1979. Melissa had a fairly rough childhood in an abusive household, when her mother, who went by the name Mimi, was arrested for robbing a bank. Melissa ran away from home and never went back. In her mother's honor, she would take up the name Mimi and would become a kind of crook that was not necessarily a villain, but definitely was more than just an average crook. She would find herself getting arrested and then teaming up with a villain group called the Grapplers, who she would then be offered a position to join the team. And she would agree, taking up the name Screaming Mimi, and would also have a sonic scream. And then going on to join the Masters of Evil, where she'd unfortunately stay in a more just female member of the team, without any real development other than the fact that she has a circus-themed outfit. And she would be more declared as a Hawkeye villain than an Avengers villain. However, we never really saw as to why it was that she was even thought to be as a Hawkeye villain in the first place. Perhaps the two just didn't like each other. However, during a plot, the Masters of Evil would try to disguise themselves as actual heroes called the Thunderbolts. Melissa would go by the name of Songbird in the Incredible Hulk issue 449 in 1997, starting the Thunderbolts plot, and story arc that would go on into their own comic. The Thunderbolts, despite the fact they were originally villains, some would actually find themselves liking the life of being a hero, especially Melissa, who was shown to actually like the idea and enjoy the idea of helping people. And unlike other members, she wasn't ever a cold-blooded killer, but just a thief. Therefore, the character being redeemable is plausible, as she wasn't too far gone. This entire arc started off with the member Angar dying in Melissa's arms, ending with her end up showing so much grief that she was screaming for 43 minutes straight. During a time where they were pretending to be heroes, Melissa would actually rebel against Baron Zemo, who was angered that she was actually starting to be redeemed. And while other members followed, like Atlas and Moonstone, a lot of them would turn into anti-heroes or go back to being villains after being a hero. But in Melissa's case, who was leading the charge, she became an actual full-on superhero, going on to even join the Avengers. This redemption arc is, in my opinion, very, very strong. It lets Melissa be an actual character and have an actual personality, as well as having the character be redeemed in a way that I think is very organic for the character. It's not really forced like a lot of redemption arcs sometimes are. Melissa has, at points, made some questionable choices as a hero, but she's never gone back to being a villain. In fact, the name Songbird has become the status quo for the character. Most only remember the fact that she used to be called Screaming Mimi, which, I will admit, I do like the name, but I do think Songbird is much, much better. She'd actually pretended to actually be a villain during the Dark Reign arc, but she was actually a spy for Nick Fury and would save Black Widow when she was targeted, proving again, yeah, she's very much a hero, risking her life to save Natasha, and nearly gets killed by Ghost. I think Songbird has a very interesting redemption arc, for the fact that it actually made the character more important to the status quo, as prior she was just a villain to fill in the ranks. But when she was redeemed, she became an actual character. A character that would eventually get focused on. Because the idea that she has a villainous past but is now a hero is what makes the character so interesting. Especially the part where she did not go back to being a villain at any point. Yes, there's been Elseworld stories or what-if stories that do have the character being a villain. But in main canon, she has never gone back to being a villain. Other than the occasional plot to spy on villains by pretending to be one like she did in Dark Reign. Which I have to admit, I don't understand how Norman Osborn fell for that. Except for the fact that the plot needed him to. The character has been adapted in many different media, however the only ones who showed this transition from villain to hero was Avengers Assemble and the Superior Squad show. However, the latter actually depicted as Melissa was a spy the entire time, going by the alias Screaming Mimi to watch over Doctor Doom for Captain America. But reality was a superhero named Songbird, which was a S.H.I.E.L.D. operative, who was to uncover the secrets of Doctor Doom's plans. Although she wasn't exactly great at it because she couldn't figure out that Mystique was actually spying on the superhero squad the entire time as well, which in itself is pretty ironic that the spy couldn't uncover the other spy. Meanwhile, in Avengers Assemble, the character was depicted as like she is in the comics. First a villain, then becoming a member of the Thunderbolts, and becoming an actual hero, after pretending to be a hero. However, this time she doesn't really have a scream, but instead it's like a screech. As it doesn't come from her mouth, but right below it. And that's it. What do you think of Songbird? Do you think she's better as a hero or as a villain? Personally, I think she works much better as a hero. As a villain, she definitely was a fill-in-the-ranks type of character. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!